Jujutsu Kaisen chapter 257 just raised the stakes by pushing more chips to the table, and if you're a fan of Itadori right now, you're going crazy because you're seeing those Yuji stocks going up, and if you're a fan of Sukuna like me, boys, it ain't looking too good right now because Sukuna stocks, they are crashing pretty quickly. Between how well Itadori is doing in this fight and the information that Gege managed to slip into the chapter regarding Sukuna's backstory and the connection to Yuji, my god, is there about to be a lot to go over. So let's unpack this chapter and all the massive series shifting information that we have. So we open up with Sukuna and Urame, and they're speaking to one another, and Urame is asking some very important questions like, who is Yuji Itadori and why is it that he has so much power? Too much power for someone who is only a leftover shell of a former vessel. It was expected of him to have some power, but not to the extent that he has the power that he's shown, and that when Urame fought against Yuji, he felt something similar to Sukuna, and it confused Urame. Sukuna is as dismissive as he always is when it comes to anything regarding Itadori, and he says that, look, he's Kenjaku's kid. There's probably some reason. He wouldn't have left that child behind without having a reason for it. This leads us to the bombshell in the chapter, or rather one of the bombshells in the chapter. Sukuna had a twin that was consumed in the womb, and said twin undergoes reincarnation, and ramifications are massive on this, but based on some of the translations that are out there from early on in the leaks, a lot of people think that the brother who Sukuna was talking about is Yuji, when that's not the case. So basically what Sukuna is getting at is that when Kenjaku was taking over the body of Yuji's mother, a Jujutsu sorcerer, he thinks that it might have been because of her lover, Yuji's father, and that his father was the reincarnation of Sukuna's brother. And Sukuna is basically telling us as the audience that Kenjaku doesn't do things randomly, and there was a reason he chose Yuji's father. So if you're thinking that Yuji and Sukuna are related, they kind of are from that perspective. When you think about it, Sukuna, if you jump through the hoops, he's basically Yuji's uncle, but this does make you go back to the very first chapter, or for anime fans, the very first anime episode where Yuji's grandfather was trying to tell Yuji about his parents, but Yuji completely shut it down. This most likely was what he was trying to tell him. This makes a bunch of sense when you look at how much of the concept of twins has been thrown around in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, like say Maki and Mai, but also when you look at Sukuna's body, his true body, and you see that he's got extra eyes and he's got extra arms. So if you predicted this, whenever you predicted it, congratulations, you are an amazing prognosticator. The other thing that this reveal drops into question is whether or not Cleave and Dismantle might have been a set of curse techniques that where one of them belonged to the brother who was consumed by the womb. This one reveal has opened up so many possibilities for the lore that we know, and it's going to get explored as the story progresses, so you want to grab your popcorn for it. Now, we then learn at some point in the timeline, Kenjaku managed to meet up with the reincarnated soul of Sukuna's brother that Sukuna had eaten, which based off of the context of the conversation that we have when it's concerning them talking about Yuji and Yuji's father. So for Kenjaku, for unknown reasons, we don't know yet, at this point in the story, took over Yuji's mother's body, and 9 months later, out popped Yuji, which at this point, if you're thinking Yuji has a messed up family tree, you are absolutely right for thinking about it, because his mother is Kenjaku, but his uncle is Sukuna. However, that brings us to the bombshell that Urame is coming to, whereas Sukuna is completely dismissive about Yuji, something we've never even seen since Yuji showed up after Gojo died. Gojo was someone that Sukuna had a little bit of interest in. We saw that he took interest in Higuruma, but when it came to someone like Maki, super interested, and then when it comes to Yuji, he's like, buzz off, get out of here. Urame thinks the quiet part out loud, which is that by the logic that Sukuna's just laid out, Yuji might possess a latent power that is equal to Sukuna. And as we'll see in a moment, Urame had very good reason to be worried, because the person who Sukuna was looking down at was incredibly powerful this entire time. Yuji was just a late bloomer, and Sukuna is watching as Yuji is finally being awakened, and my next statement's probably going to trigger some of the Gojo fans out there. Based on what we're seeing here, I'd argue Yuji might be doing a better job at fighting Sukuna than Gojo did, and because of what we know regarding Yuji's ability, each of those black flashes that Yuji keeps hammering hammering home on Sukuna with, they're slowly going to start shaking Fushiguro from his control, because those black flashes, they require you to be in a zone. What we're seeing here from Yuji busting out back-to-back black flashes repeatedly, it's showing us how locked in Yuji is and how big his potential is being tapped into at long last. One other thing of note here is that when these guys begin to start throwing down in this chapter, Yuji and Sukuna, they're in the same pose that Choso and Yuji were in when they were fighting in that bathroom in Shibuya. So when this gets animated in a few years, man, are we about to eat if they save some of that animation and they banked it and reused it later on down the line. The other thing that we learn is that Yuji has two curse techniques at his disposal. In one scene, we see Yuji touch the pillar and he slices it in half with his touch, and he starts throwing the chunk at Sukuna, which even Sukuna is briefly impressed with by this. And the narrator steps in to say that there are currently two curse techniques inside of Yuji. You have blood manipulation that came from the cursed wound, death paintings, and after getting into a zone that he's awakened in this state of black flash, Yuji now has shrine, which is Sukuna's curse technique that he has engraved on him from being the reincarnated body for Sukuna. Now we've been seeing Yuji use blood manipulation before, and now we have the pieces in place to see exactly why that is. So he clearly got the remaining cursed wound paintings that Choso recovered a good while back in the story, and Yuji must have eaten them during that 1 month break where everyone was training to prepare for Sukuna in the event that Gojo came up short, which is a total understatement because he didn't just come up short, he got cut in half. Now, as for Yuji having shrine, this is something that fans, they've been waiting to see from the moment that the series started, where Gojo told us that Yuji over time will learn to use Sukuna's curse techniques, and now we're seeing that with awakened Yuji. Now, Sukuna starts to take note as he and Yuji are mixing it up, with Sukuna saying that depending on the era of the sorcerer, even if it's the same technique, there are going to be differences, and he notes that the output currently is low, and that's what makes that moment where Yuji tries to use cleave on Sukuna's leg so interesting, because as Yuji grows, his cleave attacks that we're seeing, they're going to get more potent, and in my opinion, we're seeing now why Gege had Sukuna recharge after hitting those black flashes a few chapters ago. Yuji is going to get a chance to put all those allegations that he's not the quarterback of his own story to bed now, and if he takes down Sukuna in his awakened state, he might very well be doing that, especially because he's shocking Sukuna at the continued number of black flashes that Yuji keeps hitting. When Black Flash was explained to us early on, it was said that it relied upon luck, but this feels like it's more than just luck right here. It's coming across like Yuji has a cheat code right now, something special about. Anytime you got Sukuna getting clearly shaken up by what he's seeing, you're so locked in and you gotta be doing something right. Each time Sukuna tries to flip the script and try and get on the offensive, Yuji just doubles down on his assault, and this goes back to what Urame's unspoken fear was coming true. There might just be a chance that Yuji isn't just awakening a power that rivals Sukuna, but he might be surpassing Sukuna. And even the narrator at the end of the chapter is coming to that conclusion. Now, what's also interesting here is that Gege is continuing to pick up the pace of the story by choosing the moments where he's showing us what happened during that 1 month time skip, which I think is very smart. A lesser writer would have just taken us through those events as they transpired in real time, but Gege is choosing to sprinkle in the information when it's relevant to us to tell us what happened during the time skip, when we need to know the information, when it's important to the story, which is super smart. Ino is talking to Gojo and Shoko about using Nanami's cursed tool, and Gojo, he's as blunt as ever. He's like, look dude, what the hell are you asking us for? Just go ahead and use it, do what you want with it. Nanami trusted you, so that thing is yours. This is all meant to build us to the current state of the battle, where Ino uses his curse technique to assist Yuji in battle and launches the Ryu Dragon at Sukuna, and it connects before he moves forward with the intention of taking down Ino, but like expected, Yuji comes in clutch, slamming another attack into Sukuna, non-verbally saying not today by slamming in another couple of black flashes, which at this point, if you stop counting, I don't blame you. Sukuna at this point starts getting repeatedly annoyed and he cleaves Yuji's face, but Yuji isn't backing down and he slams in another black flash, which is why I said in the opening he's doing a better job than Gojo. Sukuna is truly being challenged right now, and he's getting super pissed off. He's screaming as a result. We're seeing a side of Sukuna I didn't think we'd ever see. However, Yuji, he isn't a complete one-trick pony. While Sukuna is readjusting, Yuji grabs Nanami's weapon and he slams Sukuna with the weapon, and then Yuji, as you guessed, hits Sukuna with another black flash right into the kidney. Again, I stopped counting, but we've got to be somewhere around 10 black flashes since the end of the last chapter where Yuji hit the black flash and he appears to not be slowing down. If this ain't Yuji having a cheat code, this has got to be some super generational run for someone using black flash. Sukuna fans, feel free to join me in group therapy by clicking the link on the screen.